Macca's Guides.
Hey guys, Macca here. Now, this isn't a video I would normally do, but after playing this game, I kind of had to make it. This is the absolute worst game I have ever played for Gamerscore. Now, before getting started with the video, I do want to say that generally speaking, I'm a pretty positive person when it comes to games, and I'm not one to go and shit on someone's work just for the fun of it. Developers work long and hard hours to bring us the games we love, and sometimes their vision might not pan out, or they might not ship a product that they are 100% proud of, but I don't like to rip them apart for it, generally speaking. Now, I'm sure every gamer has played a bad game at some point in their life, but as achievement and trophy hunters in particular, we really do subject ourselves to some really terrible experiences with games like Ben Hur, or back in the day we would play things like Hannah Montana or Barbie Puppy Rescue. To a certain extent, there's almost a little bit of fun in playing a really bad game and then talking about it with people in the Gamerscore or trophy communities. Now, generally speaking, it's pretty easy to just call a bad game bad and call it a day. However, the game we're talking about today I think is actually so bad that it gives Xbox a bad name for being available on the storefront. We'll get into the reasons exactly why, but the game in question of today's video is called Scalextric, a slot car racing game that was not made available in the US, Canada, or Japan. Now, right off the bat, the game doesn't give you a really great impression because the menu shows some of the game's graphics, and you can quickly tell that it looks dated by about 15 to 20 years. However, graphics are something that I try to look past when possible because there are tons of great games with poor graphics. Once we actually get into the gameplay though, that's where things get a little bit more rough. You can choose between 12 pre-made tracks, which are named after different countries. However, all the tracks are on the same location physically, just have different layouts, and for the most part they are copy pasta off of F1 tracks, which are definitely not licensed. Now, Scalextric can be played entirely using only one finger, and that finger is going to be firmly pressing the right trigger. All you can do in this game is either apply gas to your car or not apply gas to your car. There's no turning, there's no braking, there is no skidding or turbos or boosts or pickups or anything else, which is fine because it's a slot car game and slot cars are typically pretty simple. However, this is supposed to be a racing game, and racing games typically have tracks that have multiple laps, and something I would personally expect of a racing game would be a lap counter. This game does not have a lap counter, even though each race does involve multiple laps, which seems like pretty poor game design in my opinion. This basically just means that you keep racing until the game tells you that the race is over, or you manually count your race laps, which would be interesting if you chose the 100 lap race. Something you'll figure out really quickly with this game is that there are basically only two audio files in the game. One is the song that plays during the main menu, and one is the absolutely mind-splitting sound of an electric motor going as fast as it can go. Me in the chat lasted about 15 minutes when streaming on Twitch before I had to literally mute the game to play music, because I think we were all going mad. And playing this game for longer than 10 minutes with full volume in your ears, it makes it literally impossible to enjoy. If that wasn't already enough torture, the game is almost also impossible to play in its default camera view, as you can't see any of the turns coming up and there's no mini-map, so you are basically forced to go to the secondary camera. It'll probably take you around 5 minutes of frustration before you figure out how to change it. Also, don't even get me started about how I think these guys are being a little bit deceitful and dishonest with how different the promotional cover art of the game looks from the actual gameplay. And should you look up any trailers for these games, they come with a extremely heavy filter put on top of them in order to mask what the game actually looks like. And I'm not a fan of that at all. However, everything I can talk about in terms of this game's gameplay pales in comparison to the fact that there is a game-breaking glitch where if you win a race, the game freezes and you can no longer play it. You will get stuck in an infinite loading screen. Yes, somehow on the Xbox store, there exists a game that crashes every single time you finish a race, and it has been allowed to stay on the store somehow. Now, generally, the saga with a bad game kind of ends here. This is a random game that was made by a small company that makes little racetrack slot cars in real life. Maybe they thought this was a great marketing tool to try to sell those slot cars to kids, and it failed terribly. And usually we would call it a day. Everyone who is interested in the Gamerscore would wipe their hands clean, and they would go about their life. However, what they decided to do recently was they decided to rename the game to the name Tracks and try to sell the game in different audiences, with the game now being available in the North American stores of the US and Canada. Now, some interesting things happened with the new version of this game, because they did actually go and fix some of the problems with the previous one. However, they never updated the old one, and I don't know if they plan on it. But this new version does include some fixes, like the fact that the bug where the game crashes after every race no longer exists. They added a lap counter to the screen, which is a 10 out of 10 move in my opinion. And they also added the ability to retry races from the pause menu instead of having to quit out and restart the race the long way. However, with all these fixes, they also broke a couple of things, or in my opinion at least, made a monumental error. And that is the fact that when you are racing, you can be first or second. But in Tracks, it's actually a race between first and sest. Yes, this is an actual error that they made in a game released in 2019, being sold on the Xbox store for $10. And I honestly am a little bit speechless. But yeah, Scalextric's Tracks, the worst two games I'll probably ever play. I've been playing bad games pretty much on a weekly basis for the last 10 years, and this might have been the worst experience of them all. If it were up to me, this game wouldn't be for sale. It wouldn't be allowed on the Xbox store, especially the version of the game that literally crashes after every single time you play it. But we are where we are, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinion in the comments down below. Let me know in the comments if you've played these games for Gamerscore, as they are pretty easy. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. A special thanks to the amazing people on Patreon. Don't worry, we will get back into our positive content for the rest of the year. And hopefully I see you guys in the next video. Peace.